turn on your videos if it is possible. Please feel free to put any feedback, comments, or questions in the chat box. There will be an interactive session, like I mentioned. And yeah, let's get started. So we will start with a very short activity. There is a link in the chat box. Um, or you can also go to mentimeter.com. You will see a code being shared on the screen shortly. Can we have the code shared on the screen? This is just a short icebreaker. There's a short icebreaker question there. Please feel free to put in your ideal response, and we will showcase the responses on the screen. Um, yes, there you go. By the time we have our responses on the screen, I will very quickly take the opportunity to introduce the Climate Initiative. The Climate Initiative works passionately towards making climate education intersectional, holistic, accessible, and actionable for all. Our goal is to mobilize young people and communities to be agents of change by equipping citizens like you all to take effective climate action. We do this through education, focusing on relevant and local contexts, through guidance and mentorship to take effective environmental action, by broadening perspectives on social and environmental issues, thereby creating a systemic change for equitable and climate just future. We currently have two broad programs, the Green Warriors and the Mind the Gap. Through Green Warriors, we work with children and young people to help them take action and be change makers in their own rights through immersive and experiential engagements. And through Mind the Gap, we work with organizations, communities, and companies to best understand the gaps in their knowledge and demystify climate change, environmental, and sustainability concepts for them. Under Mind the Gap, we have two programs running at the moment, Listening Skills and the Earth Talk. The Listening Skills is an eco-mindfulness space where topics such as our emotional and affective relations with nature, climate anxiety are discussed, and through guided and semi-guided meditation that allows ones to reconnect with nature. And the Earth Talks is a platform where we bring in experts on a field and strike conversation on relevant topics related to environment, climate change, and sustainable lifestyles. Recently, we also conducted our very first in-person Earth Talk in Delhi at Lodi Gardens, where more than 30 people had joined us. So that's about TCI. Today, we have all gathered here for the launching of a new program which has been curated and designed following a rigorous and a very long process of consultation with a variety of national and international actors from civil society, academia, government bodies, etc. In the course of the event today, we will learn more about this program. And before we introduce the structure and the design of the program, and the motivation and the rationale behind creating it, we have a cohort of climate leaders in their own rights joining us today, from whom we shall also hear about the state of climate education in India, the gaps therein, and what steps going ahead can be taken to fill these gaps. And we will do this through a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Hita. I would like to hand over to Hita now, who will introduce us to the speakers and take over the panel discussion. Over to you, Hita.
Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Aishwarya. Welcome to joining the launch of the Climate Leadership Program. Before we get into the leadership program, we thought we'd speak to some climate leaders in their own right. And today we have four wonderful people who've joined us. To begin with, we have Joyce, who's joined us from UNESCO. We have Ash from the pop movement, Anshul from Youth Ki Awaaz, and Ridhima, who's a young climate activist herself. Welcome, all four of you, and thank you for being with us today. It's been a journey, and it's been a roadmap that we've walked together so far. So thank you for being there with us in spirit, but also being here with us today virtually. So diving right into the discussion, I'd like to start with Ridhima first. Ridhima, as a young climate activist yourself, and you can remind us again how young you are, But basically, I mean, you've started even before you were a teenager. You did a lot of work. You held the Indian government accountable. You noticed and you faced climate issues yourself firsthand. Can you tell us a little bit on what were the challenges you faced and what would have helped you to do your job better, or through your interactions with other young people? What do you think would have helped you to maybe advocate better or be a better activist, or maybe learn or do some, whatever you think would be have the right mix of skills and tools that would have helped you to be a better you?
Mm-hmm. Hi everyone, and thanks for being here. And I'm really grateful to be here. And I'm 16. And to be honest, I mean, I started my activism back in 2017 when I was 9. I believe when I started, I just had my parents who guided me. I just had a few news articles that, my mom found it for me that I could read. And I just had few of my dad's friends who guided me in, the questions that I had, or the work that I wanted to do. So to be honest, back then when I started, I didn't had many people, I mean, I didn't had many young people my age who were doing the same work. So it was really, it felt really lonely. And to be honest, when I used to do anything, whenever I had certain ideas, I never really had somebody to discuss it with. So it felt really lonely at the beginning. And within my schools, I didn't really had many of my kids my age, to talk about climate change. Like I couldn't really talk about my passion with a lot of people my age, because they really didn't understood what climate change was. And even if some people knew, they didn't really felt connected, or they didn't really felt that it was an important issue to work on. And at the same time, it was really difficult to work on anything, because not many people were ready to support, even if you had some projects or anything. And even working with the governments, it was not an thing that it was not an initiative that it is today. So it was really difficult to get people to work with you. And there were very less people you could talk to, and there were not many young people who understood climate change well, like they understand it today. And at the same time, I would say there was a lot of there was this huge barrier in terms of being young, and talking about climate change, talking about the problem that has been created by the older people. So being young, like being 9, or being in the phase between 9 to 16, talking about climate change, and telling that the government isn't doing much, or the older people were not taking their job seriously, and they were not doing their part best, was something which not really people appreciated from my side. And I think from many young people's, because you're young and you're not supposed to be pointing out the mistakes of the older people, and you're supposed to respect them and everything. So yeah, I would say these were some of the basic challenges that I felt and I faced when I started my activism early back in 2017.
Thank you, Ridhima, for sharing that. I'd like to move to the other end of the spectrum now in terms of experiences and in terms of backgrounds, and coming to you, Joyce, with your work in the UN. You've worked in education, you've worked with young people. Can you tell us a little bit on what has it been like for you, and what drives you to do what you do, basically?
Thank you, Hita, and thank you to TCI for including UNESCO in this discussion. Very important. And as we were doing the Menti questions right now, I actually wrote the word inclusive and responsible and consistent, because that's the thing I also heard from what Ridhima was saying. What drives us is the shared passion and shared understanding that we all have a role to play, and that we have to be consistent with what it is that we do. And so for UNESCO, and being and working in the realm of education itself, we all know that education is the most powerful tool to help make all actors, be it young, be it old, or be it those in the mainstream, to help them make informed decisions, and especially on something as common and as shared as climate change, which we all face today in all aspects and everywhere around the world. So the idea of being inclusive is that everyone, from young and old, those that are also not represented including the youth who are supposed to just listen and not act, that they feel empowered through education to take action at their level, in their own small circles, in the way that they work. And as UNESCO, like you mentioned, we do work with member states and therefore governments. And one aspect that I really want to highlight today, and this was an initiative that started from the United Nations Secretary General himself in 2022, so some 2 years ago, when we were thinking exactly what kind of education can we give to future students, learners, to help them face these triple planetary crisis, or just crisis and conflict and climate change issues. And greening education is indeed a global initiative wherein member states, actors, personal and individuals come together to talk about and to recommit to action towards addressing climate change. And UNESCO is the secretariat for this global education partnership. And as all partnerships go, we need to work on something that everyone can commonly base their actions towards. And these are the 4 action pillars of Greening Education Partnership. There is the greening education aspect, greening curriculum, greening teachers and capacity of educators, and greening communities. And everyone around the table here have a role to play, and including the youth, especially in greening communities, to act and to integrate climate education in all aspects of action, through community learning centers or building learning cities that sustain the values of Greening Education Partnership. And to say a little bit of the progress that this partnership has made is that just some 10 days ago, on World Environment Day on the 5th of June, the Greening Education Partnership launched 2 global guidance documents. And again, when you hear the words documents and frameworks, they seem so far-fetched and so far away that no one can work on it. But in this case, I believe these 2 guidelines are quite inclusive and quite engaging. The first one is the Green School Quality Standards, and they are a set of guidelines that really set out the minimum requirements of what it takes to be a UNESCO, to be a green school. And so it promotes action-oriented approaches and builds a whole school system of including not just the teachers and the students, but also administrators and the managers of school systems. And it also engages learners to take more active learning, to do climate action, to integrate nature and play-based learning towards climate action. And the second guideline is the Greening Curriculum Guidance. And this is a practical manual that lays out an understanding of what climate education should consist of. And while we know that curriculum is already very much set in many countries, what UNESCO and what the global community aims to do is to integrate aspects of climate change education into existing curriculum, so that students and teachers are not overburdened with adding another layer of things to study and action to undertake. So that's what I wanted to say, and that here in UNESCO New Delhi, we work with actors such as yourselves, such as member states. We've just last year came out with a report on India's situation and in the Indian context of what climate change education what climate change action through education the government of India and the actors in the Indian context have done. And so my colleague Abhinav will be sharing all of these documents, and you're very much welcome to take reference of these documents. And so that's a little bit of what we do here in UNESCO. Back to you, Hita.
Thank you, Joyce. Moving to Anshul now. Anshul, you've founded Youth Ki Awaaz. You've worked with young people for decades, ever since I think you could probably start talking now. But I mean, can you tell us a little bit on what has motivated you, and how do you see, like, what were the things that you feel could have benefited you, or from the work that you've done with young people from across India, how can we help bring some tools to people which actually can be of value?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hita. First of all, thank you for having me here. And it's wonderful to see so many people have, shown up and are here to listen to us. I think, so I started my journey about 16 years ago. And at that time, obviously, the world was drastically different. Information overflow was not that big an issue. Attention deficit was not that big an issue. The internet was structured very differently. So it sort of gave me the opportunity to start Youth Ki Awaaz at a very early, in the very early stages of social media in India. But I completely feel what Ridhima said about the lack of peer support. I think, if I had to sort of really put a finger to it, I would say that probably in anybody's youth leadership journey, the one thing that really stands out for them is access to a peer group that understands where they are at in their journey, and a peer group that's willing to really support and come together and rally behind the person who's really trying to start. And this really boils down essentially to building a community. And I think that really is at the core of everything that we do at Youth Ki Awaaz as well. Like, Youth Ki Awaaz is essentially a community platform. It's a community of communities, young people working across issues, coming together and using the platform to speak up on issues that they care about. So over the years, we did manage to build a fairly sizable community. So as of today, there are more than 1.5 lakh people who are every month writing on Youth Ki Awaaz and using the platform to share their opinions, their stories on issues they care about. And they're being seen by more than 25 million people a month as well. So, it took a while to build this community, but I think my journey would have been accelerated had I had access to a peer support group, a group of mentors, a group of folks who really understand what building in the impact space looks like for a lot of young people. And I think now that we've sort of taken this journey, we imbibe this as an ethos in our program as well. So recently, when we launched our own climate action program on net zero emissions in India, our goal really was to encourage young people to understand what net zero really means, not just in the concept of, in the context of the concept itself, but how does a net zero future in the country have a direct impact on your job future or your future in the kind of cities that we're living in? What does it mean for the kind of companies that we have in the country, the kind of innovation that comes out in the future? And what does it mean for policy making? So when we did get started in this front, our goal at the very outset was that before we do any advocacy, before we do any information creation, we'll first put a community together. We'll first bring folks who are already invested in this issue, who usually may not be talking to each other, but here's an opportunity for them to do it more regularly. And that's what really led us to then have many successful, campaigns, collaborations with government organizations, National Institute of Urban Affairs, and so on and so forth, and really then institute programs that can have long-term impact and change. So I think, the acceleration of impact can really happen if there is a strong peer support group and a strong community around people who are really trying to build in this space, especially when it comes to climate. Because you see, now, if you compare it to 10 years ago, climate change is a very mainstream conversation today. People are talking about it. In our capacity as Youth Ki Awaaz, we've done 3 surveys on climate change, one on perception of climate change that young people have generally, one on climate and health, impact of health, impact on health of climate change, and third on climate and education. In all 3 cases, the data very clearly told us that a majority of young people care deeply about climate change. Between 95 to 97% of the respondents, and more than 10,000 respondents per survey, we noticed that a majority of young people care deeply about climate change. But the starting point is something that nobody seems to be clear on. Only 6 to 7% of the respondents actually know what to do about it. And the main reason that they quoted was lack of opportunities. And I don't think opportunities are lacking as such, but I do feel like the information often does not travel far and wide. It's not reaching communities where climate change is truly creating a devastating impact. And very often it's also not including folks who are vulnerable or who are facing the brunt of climate change. So I feel like, at the end of the day, for us, like the way we look at it, it boils down to community. It boils down to that peer support group. And I think if we can solve for that, then that's 40%, 50% of the road traveled, for anybody who's sort of trying to build for climate action.
Thank you, Anshul. Thank you for bringing those valuable points and really mentioning those. And on that note, I think I'll pick up with Ash. Ash, you've been with the pop movement, helped bring it from life. And you've worked with young people from across different continents, from across the world. Can you tell us something from your experiences and what does this look like, especially when it comes to youth and climate?
Absolutely. I just want to first off start by saying thank you very much for this incredible opportunity to be here with you. I think we've got a number of exceedingly inspiring voices in the room, but very importantly, also great aspiration to act. And at the POP movement, where POP stands for Protect Our Planet, we're really focused on action. I think just to provide a little bit of a backdrop, the inspiration behind the POP movement is really to mobilize. It's ambitious, the 1.8 billion youth of the world, to take knowledge-inspired action to protect our planet. And when I say knowledge-inspired action, it is that we want to emphasize an understanding of the science of climate change to guide and provide direction to the action that communities take, that young people take. And a lot of the points pertinent to the POP movement have actually been alluded to here. So I'll highlight a few things. One is to say that, as Anshul just brought up, there are a number of young people who are at the forefront of climate issues, but they don't quite know what to do about the issue of climate change. I also want to take this point one step further and say there are a number of people that we're working with at the POP movement where we're really sort of I'd say collected with and cohesive with groups of people who are on the forefront of the brunt of climate change. They may not even know that it's climate change. There are a number of people who don't quite understand that the challenge is really climate change. And I want to underscore the issue of climate and health, with Anshul also brought up. And Ridhima, you also brought up a number of issues. There's a whole issue of isolation and so on and so forth. What I want to say is that mental health is a huge issue. And there's actually physiological issues which are heat stress related, but there are a number of other things. Livelihoods are affected, economies are affected, communities are displaced. By the year 2050, we're going to have over 1.2 billion climate refugees. I mean, they're thinking we don't have economic opportunities. We come from an agricultural background. Now my parents are asking me to traverse 17 countries. I may not come out alive on the other end. They encounter cartels. There's all kinds of things. I mean, I actually know these people, many of these people firsthand. They're not calling it climate change. They're not even aware that it's climate change. So I just want to say there's a whole gamut of issues. But I also want to underscore that the most vulnerable communities who have contributed the least are actually at the forefront of this issue. So going back to the whole notion of what is this POP movement really about? Well, there are a few things. One is it's to understand that we're really a global family. And we do really function and operate with that spirit. I also want to say Hita is, and I celebrate her every single day for numerous reasons, but one that I'm very happy to share here, that she's among our first mentors. So at the POP movement, which was founded now 8 years ago, the idea behind the POP movement that we need youth to be at the forefront of tackling this issue, which we have a very rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to tackle. We need youth. Why? Not because the idea is to now dump young people with this challenge, but really young people have the most to bear in terms of the brunt of climate change. Young people are least set in their ways. So what we really need is lifestyle changes in mindset, and so on and so forth. So young people are very important, but also young people have the ability to influence change within schools and like Joyce very rightly brought up, with teachers and educational systems at work, in homes with families, and of course with communities. So we need a real we need a groundswell of action. And what we do is come together with young people who may be in school, out of school, with communities, oftentimes the most vulnerable communities, talk about in a very participatory manner what are the issues you are facing. Not that how do we tackle climate change, because like I said, they may not even know that climate change is at the helm of what they're talking about here. So what are the biggest issues that you're facing and what are the solutions? The most important thing is that our approach is very participatory, and it's about the it's by the people for the people. So the idea being that young people will mobilize more people. They may be media, they may be professors, they may be, and we need that groundswell. So it's intergenerational ultimately, but with young people at the forefront. And the science of climate change being a very critical element of what it is that's needed to guide that action. And it may be very, very simple steps. Really, what we need is simple steps. And I want to underscore a number of important points which were flagged by Joyce, by Ridhima, by Anshul. And I know all of us sort of grapple with this, but we did come out with a couple of books which really tackle, let me just say, the one of them is called Small Steps, Big Impact. The other one is Simple Steps to Sustainability. And the idea being that all of us can play a very simple part in our lives every single day, which will make a difference. If you think back on movements historically, it's been when people have come together. They've all taken little steps in their own spaces and places, but they've collectivized. And the pop movement is really about that collective action, and it's about the camaraderie and the love and the global universal spirit of the global universal family. And all of us are really only just mentors. And so Ridhima, I hope that as everybody sort of underscored and I think amplified, it's about being able to come together, to know there are people we can rely on, even if it's not talking about the issue of climate change on a certain day at a certain time, but talking about the fact that, hey, at school, I'm going through this, or I'm going to graduate from school, and so this is what I'm dealing with, because ultimately this is something that affects every aspect of our lives, right? And so every minute doesn't have to be about how do I sort of limit how do I raise awareness about people eliminating plastic straws? Yes, we need that, but we need to be there to support each other as a global family. And so that's really what the pop movement's about in the simplest terms. But I just want to say that at the end of the day, it is about coming together, and it's about holding each other's hands in this process. And that's how global movements have taken place, and that's how we take for granted a number of things in our lives, which people have come together to spearhead as a global movement and change the course of history. And so can we do this? Yes, we can do this. That we have a window of opportunity which is rapidly shrinking? Yes, that's true too. So time is of the essence. But the fact that we are ultimately all made up of the same material, and I think that love and support is the fundamental premise of everything we stand for. So do we really care about each other and about folks we may never ever get to meet in person, but that they are they're putting everything at stake to get there. So yeah, we do. And I think together we're gonna make this happen. So today's a testimony to that. And I want to thank every effort for propelling movements within schools. I just want to say our next book, which will come out just as the school year kicks off, is actually about how schools can save money, become economical, and become models of climate action. Because why can we not do this within school campuses and school premises? This is where kids are learning. This is where teachers are empowered, students are empowered, and ultimately, we need to do this like our lives depend on it, because they do. So I just want to say thank you very much, and I'll keep you posted about that. But the idea is really to make it simple, because all of us can make a difference as long as we know we can stand together and support each other. So thank you very much for this incredible opportunity, and I applaud all of you. And I know that you guys are going to get out there, and Hita's a real testimony, but I want to say, Ash, Viveka, all of you, the beautiful folks we're together with here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ash. I think we have a few more minutes before we need to move on to the next segment, but I think coming back to all of you for maybe a short, like in one sentence, for each of you, I mean, if you would want to see something, especially when it comes to youth leadership and climate, what is the thing that you would like to see? And maybe I move it around a little bit, and I start this time with Anshul, and then we take it up from there.
I think I could talk about this for maybe a day and a half if I really get the opportunity. But I think if I were to put it to just one thing, it would really be honestly just as simple as easier access to information. I think I relate very strongly with what Ash mentioned about language. If you look at just Hindi, which is such a big language in India. The word for climate change is Jalvayu Parivartan, which essentially translates to changes in water and air. It's in no way all encompassing of what climate change really is doing to people. So I feel like if we can build information, if we can build language, people will be able to articulate for themselves what they're dealing with. And that could be the starting point for a lot of these changes.
Thank you. Joyce, over to you.
Wow. Well, how am I supposed to follow up on all that? All right. One sentence. But it's everything. Like colleagues have said, access to information, the action, the camaraderie. But I also want to just, if I can, sorry, Hita, it's more than one sentence, but the youth, with your energy, with your creativity, you also have ways to think about the future that you want to create. And this can be through your jobs, through your activities today, through your partnerships, through your involvement in communities. What can you do in very many different ways? And you may not see your own drop in this immense pool, but start it, and then it will gather. The momentum will be there. You will meet people who believe in the same things as you do. But you have to start. I mean, we all need to play our part, but the fact that you can be even more creative than those before you should be used to the full extent. That was a paragraph. Sorry.
Perfect. No, all good. Ridhima, over to you.
I think I mean I totally agree with Anshul Bhaiya and what Joy said, and I believe having more young voices within the systems is something. Being a young person since 2017, I believe I would really love to see more young voices within the systems, and specifically those from the communities, those who are most impacted by climate change, is something that I really look forward to in the coming years.
Thank you. And Ash, yes, back to you.
Well, I just want to say that, think about how we can translate adversity to action. I think that is one of the most fundamental things, and amplify your voice in this process. Celebrate being together. And I'm not going to get into this a whole lot, but I'm going to say we do host what's called the Pop Festival, which is about coming together, bringing teachers, professors, young students, and showcase, be creative, take action and showcase it. And this is about developing on a total front. So just go for it. We invite you to the Pop Festival. I'll share more information later. But I just want to say, amplify your voice. It counts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ash. And thank you to each one of you for being with us, not only today, but like I said at the start, for being with us from day one. And Ridhima, I think we've come a long way now from, so thank you once again. Truly heartfelt thanks, but also a lot of love and admiration for everything that each of you do. And with that, I hand it back to Aishwarya to run us through the next bit.
Thank you, Hita. Thank you, Ash, Anshul, Ridhima, and Joyce, for sharing your thoughts, ideas, and concerns with us. Today, climate change, sustainability, net zero, post-carbon world seems to be on everyone's lips, but we also tend to fall in the trap that only lip service is being paid to it. We have some incredible policy initiatives in India at the moment, the Life Mission, for instance. But the question remains, how do we translate these into real-time action? And the conversation that we just witnessed has rightly highlighted this point that which is also the major driver behind the climate leadership program. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the climate leadership program. What we recognized at TCI and what has also come out in the course of this panel discussion was that there is a certain level of awareness in the young people. There is a lot of care and concern as compared to the awareness at times in this age group. Which is why we felt that this age group that is between 18 to 25 is really important, because it is this public that can really make or break. And it is keeping in mind this age group that this new initiative has been formulated. The Climate Leadership Program is going to be a 6-month training program, which will provide young people in India between the age groups of 18 to 25 with certain requisite skills. This not only includes technical knowledge about climate change, but also interpersonal skills, which will be given through interactions with experts and other participants and opportunities to expand your network, along with a lot of practical skills required to lead and take actionable initiatives in your community and also go beyond that. I would now hand over to Viveka. She will tell us more about the programs, the details, the structure, the content, how does one apply for it. So over to you, Viveka. But just before that, a quick instruction to the audience. I would encourage the audience to hear this out carefully, hear the presentation out carefully, and put any questions, comments, feedback in the chat. Also, make sure that the question pertains to the program with any kind of inquiries related to the structure of the course, the content, the application. We are very happy to take those questions. You can also ask questions with regard to the panel discussion that we just heard. I request you to keep your question specific, keep it related to the panel discussion and the agenda that we have for today. And also, if you can mention which particular speaker would you like to direct the question to, that would be great. Over to Viveka.
Thanks, Aishwarya. Thank you for the lovely panel discussion that we had. Thank you, Hita, for doing an excellent job in moderating the session, and to our excellent speakers who took the time to join us for this event today. I'm going to try and start this. All right. So thanks, Aishwarya, for giving us the segue and like a foundation on what the climate leadership program is. I'll dive straight into it, but before I talk more about what the climate leadership program is, I want to give you a little context on how we came to build this program. How did we think of making this program? And a lot of the conversation from our previous panel is also it also mirrors what our rationale for the program was. That young people are very rightly the most important stakeholders that need to be at the forefront of taking climate action, because they are the ones who are going to be affected by it. Today's youth, but also the future generations. And like Ash mentioned, it is a matter of survival for them. It's a question of their survival. So it is very important that they are the ones who are leading the charge on taking climate action. And like Anshul also mentioned, that a lot of young people in India are already aware about climate change. They're already aware about the dire situation that we find ourselves in, and they're really passionate and eager to take some form of action. It's just that they don't know where to begin, like they don't know where to take that first step. They don't know which direction should they, channel their passion towards. And the state of our education system is I mean, it's definitely growing. There's a lot more conversation, there's a lot more information available on climate change, there's a lot more information available on what different actors can do, what are the policy implications, what are, adaptation, mitigation, everybody is talking about the different types of ways in which climate change can be tackled. But there is still a lack of, comprehensive information, that talks about not only the problems of climate change, but talks about how individuals can take solution, can act on it, but also how individuals can work in a collective and a collaborative form. Like Ridhima mentioned about her experience, that she faced that there was a lack of peer support, there was a lack of support from organizations and governments, who could take her seriously, who could listen to her and then say, yeah, what you're saying is right, we're going to back you on this. Which is what is lacking right now, because there is a plethora of information available. It's just that there is not enough support from different organizations. There is not enough guidance from people who are already working in this space, mentors, and the lack of opportunities where young people can actually take some form of action. And that also, in a way, is what our experience has been at TCI. All of us who've been working at TCI have either been working in this space for years or have just started their journey. Some of us even come from a background where we had formal education in environmental and climate change or climate sciences. But even after completing that, even after getting into starting on our career paths, we always felt how do I implement this knowledge? I learned so much about it, but how do I implement it? How do I make use of it? How do I actually make it effective? My actions effective. And that is what brought us to building what is called the Climate Leadership Program. And as Aishwarya mentioned, it's a comprehensive, all-encompassing program where we are aiming to cover not only climate change, but also intersectional aspects of climate change, so as to be able to build that gap that's there between knowledge and action. And not only equip the young people with the right set of knowledge and skill set, but also empower them with the confidence, with the agency to be able to go out there and talk about it. Like Joyce said, once you start taking action, once you start talking about it, once you're in that space, people will hear you, just find a way to amplify your voice. So this program is basically to help young people amplify their voices in the climate action space by giving them the knowledge on different topics of climate or different thematics related to climate change, but also covering topics that are equally important for driving action and driving change. This includes soft skills. A lot of people mention they don't know how to talk about climate change. They don't know how to explain it to somebody else. They don't know how to convince somebody to listen to them. Or, going and approaching a government organization or going and approaching a funding organization that, what, I've got this excellent idea for a youth-led initiative. Please hear me out and please support me for it. So soft skills like communications, leadership skills, entrepreneurship skills, those are some things that we plan to incorporate and integrate in the program along with the climate change knowledge. And also some of the green skills that young people could possibly possibly use when they're trying to take action in this space, including policy and advocacy for climate change. How do you run a climate change campaign? How do you amplify the voices of grassroots level organizations and grassroots and vulnerable communities, and even having case studies from people who are dealing with and facing the impacts of climate change. So bringing the grassroots voices to people so that there's a face climate change. It's not just something that's happening to the polar bears, or it's not something that's happening to people on the coastal areas dealing with hurricanes and cyclones. So the rationale for the climate leadership program was, bridging this gap between knowledge and action that young people actually feel right now. And this was a very iterative process. This was not something that just emerged out of nothing overnight. We've been working on this for months. We've had a lot of internal discussions. We've also reached out to a lot of wonderful, knowledgeable stakeholders who've been working in the climate action space or the social development space. We've reached out to NGOs, we've reached out to civil society organizations, people who are working in the governments, working on policy changes and advocacy, people who are working with grassroots level agencies to mobilize actions at the grassroots level, people working in the youth empowerment space like Youth Ki Awaaz and even pop movement. Also academicians, people who work in education, both formal and non-formal education. So we've reached out to a lot of stakeholders, received their feedback, changed the program multiple times. So it's been a continuous evolving iterative process after which we got the program. And last month we also conducted a youth stakeholder discussion at UNESCO's New Delhi office, where we had young people coming in, joining in from Delhi in person, but also from across India who joined us virtually for the consultation. We had about 50 to 60 people, I think. And even there, the discussions that we had, a lot of that resonated with what we were already discussing, for the program, what we already discussed in the panel as well, that it's high time that we talk about the solutions rather than only highlighting the problem. And let's talk about how young people can be empowered to take action. What is the sort of mentorship that they probably require? What are the sort of support that they require? This platform where they can interact with each other, probably build a network so that they can collaborate and work collectively. And also how can they work at the grassroots level? How can they gain more hands-on experience rather than just classroom learning and textbook learning? So all of this resonated with what the idea behind the climate leadership program was, and which helped us curate and make the climate leadership program to what it is right now. Talking about who the climate leadership program is intended for, it's intended for any young person from India between the ages of 18 to 25. And it does not limit to somebody who's already working in, climate action, who's already involved in this work. No, it includes anybody who's passionate or even slightly interested to learn more about it and maybe take some form of action. So you could be somebody who's just finished their school, or you are a recent graduate, or you're somebody who's been working in this area or in some other multidisciplinary area for years, but now you feel like you want to make a shift, you want to make a change towards this direction. It's open to anybody who fits this age group, and it's primarily only for young people right now in India. The duration of it, like Aishwarya mentioned, is 6 months, and I'll be talking more about how those 6 months are going to be broken down and spaced. But essentially, the program will require about 5 to 6 hours of your time during a week. The mode of learning for the program is primarily going to be virtual, but we are also planning to do a potential in-person training session sometime during the program. And for the program right now, we are limiting the cohort size to 40 people. The reason behind it is that we want to have a tight-knit community of 40 young leaders. A lot of times it becomes easier when it's a smaller group for people to connect with each other, to feel the sense of belonging, the sense of camaraderie with each other. And what we've been talking about having peer-to-peer support, and having this community who supports you, who backs you, who's got your back in all of the actions that you're taking. So to be able to enable that, we believe that limiting the size to 40 people is what would help us do that, which is what we're doing. And again, in the interest of being an inclusive program, it's being offered free of cost. So let me come to the components of what the climate leadership programs are. First, like I mentioned, there would be a virtual training component. The first 4 months would be a virtual training component where we'll have lectures from experts who are already working in either the climate change space or social development, or somebody who's an expert on leadership skills or soft skills. We'll be having these expert lectures conducted live, and they'll be roughly about 2 to 3 hours every week, along with some form of self-learning, either in the form of reading assignments or group assignments that the cohort will do collectively, which primarily, again, will be 3 hours a week, not more than that. So that combines to about 5 to 6 hours of virtual training. The in-person training, which is what we are hoping to do, and we are planning to do a potential in-person training sometime during the 4-month training period, where we'll have the entire cohort come together at the same place. We'll be focusing mainly on community building, and having specialized training on how to work collectively, how to work together, just to have, like face-to-face interactions, because virtual learning does not really, that's a limitation of virtual learning. Even though virtual learning allows you to join from anywhere in the country, it still makes a difference if everybody comes together at one place and, sees their friends together, sees, the team together. So it's the intention behind the in-person training is to, build that sense of community, build that sense of belonging to the program and to the cohort as well. And finally, the third component is what is the bridge between the knowledge and the action, like I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of information, like I earlier said, but it's always difficult to take that first step. What is that starting point that you have? And a lot of you mentioned, the panelists mentioned, and a lot of the feedback that we received from the consultation and from the other experts as well was that people require some form of mentorship. They need some sort of guidance from, a wise elder who's already working in this space. Which is why we thought of having an action component that is either a mentorship or an internship, which will be for 2 months, where we'll connect the participants with either a mentor. If they have a project idea, then we'll connect them to a mentor who can guide them on their project idea, which they can implement on ground during the program. Or we will connect them to a partner organization for an internship. And the participants would be free to choose their interest areas, and TCI will help connect them to the relevant organization or the mentor. And we'll also keep taking monthly updates from the cohort to get a sense of their progress, see if they need any help, guide them if it's necessary. And UNESCO very graciously has also offered to highlight and feature some of these project ideas that are great project ideas at the end of the program. So we're also happy, there's also something to look forward to. So if you have a project idea of your own, we can connect you with your mentors, you can implement it on ground, and hopefully get featured by UNESCO. And obviously, which brings me to, why doing the climate leadership program would be a great thing. I mean, apart from getting like this comprehensive knowledge and skill set and mindset on different intersectional topics of climate change or green skills or soft skills that can help you drive action and drive change, it's also a platform to build an ecosystem of not only young climate leaders, but also connecting them to experts, connecting them to peers who are already working in this space, and provide them with some form of resource that they can use in their action, that they can use in their work. And, help build a community, which is what we've been talking so much about, build this tight-knit community of young professionals, young leaders, where you can, share your success stories, but also share opportunities with your peers, talk about what work you've been doing, but also talk about how you can work collaboratively, or how you can exchange knowledge with each other. And at the end of the program, you'll obviously receive a certificate of completion from TCI and its partner organizations. And like I mentioned, you'll also get the recognition for some of the project ideas from UNESCO. The timeline for the program is we open the applications today, which is the 19th of June. Somebody from the team would share the application link in the chat. The applications are open until the 3rd of July. After which we'll take some time to do the screening process, see who the participants are, and then we'll reach out to the selected cohort by the end of July. We're also hoping to reach out to people who don't get selected, but it'll only happen after the end of July. And then we plan to launch the program, or we'll start the program on 12th of August, which happens to be World Youth Day. So, that kind of works seamlessly. And then for 4 months, we have the training component. Then we do our mentorship or internship component in December. And then we finally conclude the program in February next year. And like has already been mentioned, the program is delivered in partnership with UNESCO New Delhi and in collaboration with the Pop Movement and Youth Ki Awaaz. I want to take this time to thank Joyce for agreeing to partner with us on this program. It means a lot to us to get that support from UNESCO. And also Abhinav, who's been, who's tirelessly been working to, make this program a reality at UNESCO. So thank you to Joyce and Abhinav both. And thanks to Ash and Anshul. You guys have been together with us since the start. And yeah, I think this is, like our baby, like you've seen the program concept note when it was like in a very nascent state, and you've held our hand and supported us throughout the process. And this is where we are, we've launched the program today. So it wouldn't be possible without the support from Youth Ki Awaaz and Pop Movement. So thank you so much for both of you. And yeah, since we're talking so much about inclusion and collaboration, and we really do believe in working collectively and collaboratively, we would love to partner with other organizations or as knowledge partners or experts who come in to deliver the lectures, or as mentors or internship organizations to fruitfully implement the different components of the program. So if you feel you want to join us, either as a partner or even as a volunteer, reach out to us on our email, or you can fill out the form that's there on the Climate Initiative's website, and we'll get back to you. Which finally brings me to the applications. The applications for the program are now open. We have the deadline of 3rd July. So by midnight of 4th July, that's like 11:59 of 3rd July, please fill out the applications. You can find the link in the chat on the Zoom, or you can find the link on our social media pages or on our website. And which brings me finally to the end of the presentation, and I want to officially launch the Climate Leadership Program. Here. Thank you everybody. Thank you everyone who's joined us today. I will hand it back to Aishwarya to take us into the question and answers regarding the program, but also if there are any questions to our speakers. So Aishwarya, over to you now.
Thank you, Viveka, for the very comprehensive presentation. Great to see the program is finally being launched. And thank you, Medha, for putting together such a brilliant, cute little video for us. So let's open the floor for the audience to ask questions. The form is also out in the chat box. For those who feel that their friends or anyone they know who might be interested in the program, please save the link. You can share it with them. You can share it with your networks. So yeah, we do have a few questions in the chat box, but if there is anyone who wants to ask your question or just give feedback by yourself, you can raise your hand. We will let you unmute yourself and ask it yourself. But even if you don't want to speak, you can simply type it and I will read it out for our speakers. The questions related to the program, I will direct it to Viveka and Hita, if that's fine. So we have one question by Abhilasha Singh, and she wants to know about whether this program will be available to Indian students who are studying abroad. So I think this is with regards to where you're based. I mean, and to who is this program open? So if Hita, if you could just share what is the rationale behind, the answer to this question, and also who will be able to participate in the program in case they're Indian and they're based outside the country. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Aishwarya, and thank you for that question, Abhilasha. Very well, I think, timely question to ask that. The reason, well, there are two things. One, the leadership program is aimed for young people or Indian youth, and this is because we want to create a sense of community of young climate leaders within India. So all our focus on the teachings, the focus on the approach that will be taken will be climate change, with some speakers coming in from the international arena, but focusing on climate action within India. If you happen to be an Indian that is based elsewhere, we might have to take this on a case-by-case basis, because we can open up some of the trainings for you. The trainings are all virtual. There is an in-person component which might be harder if you're not based in the country. So we'll have to see how we can then navigate the course of the entire program. But happy to then take this on a case-by-case basis if we do have selected participants who are not based within the country.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Abhilasha. We have another question by Kasturi Das, and this is with regards to the age. The age that we have set for this with regards to the eligibility for the program is 18 to 25. So anyone falling below 18, above 25 would naturally be kept out of the criteria. So, and there are solid reasons for that. So Hita, Viveka, if any one of you could just specifically address the reasons behind keeping it a rather short bracket of age group.
Yeah, coming back on this one. So the age, the lower limit for 18 is fairly simple, because we plan to do an in-person component, and it is much harder to do things in person when there are minors involved. There's layers of consent and safety and security that need to be taken into consideration, and this is why we have 18 as the minimum age group. But 25 is a very particular age that we've thought about after lots of discussions. And currently, through the nature of the program, we're aiming to ensure that we can bring in people who need the skills to take the jump to the next level. So this is either a very young professional or a young, or a recent graduate who might then benefit from a program of this sort. So we're making sure to curate the program which we feel is going to benefit this sort of an age group. We could think about opening up some elements of the program which are more generic, maybe to the open public. We also do Earth Talks, which will have a lot of interlinkage and collaboration with the program in itself. So there will be elements where we can make open to everybody. But the main training component is then focused for an age group, which are either young students or young professionals.
Right. There is another question by Oceanica Bhatt. She is asking, how should we contribute in a project or an organization? Can I request Oceanica, if you want to elaborate your question a little bit so that we know what specifically, in what sense are you talking about contributing? So and also who would you like to direct it to, so that you get an ideal response for it? Would you like to ask a question yourself? Okay, no worries. So she has written a follow-up question. What if I am working with an NGO and want to be part of the program? So Hita, again to you, is there any system by which a person can enroll for the program and represent an organization and not an individual, not in her or his individual capacity? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're within the age bracket, the application is open to everybody. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what your educational background is, or where you're based in terms of location within the country. If you want to volunteer as part of the team or sort of help put the program in place, if you can send us a line on email with a little bit, some information on what you're looking for, that might also be helpful. Or if you're looking from an organizational standpoint, as an organization being a part of the program, if you can let us know what that is. So if you can send us an email at theclimactinitiative@gmail.com. I can also put in the chat. We can then take up this question bilaterally as well. Thank you, Aishwarya. The email is in the chat now.
Yes. So in case there are any other questions, please raise your hand, or you can also unmute yourself and shoot your question. In the chat box, as of now, we don't have any more questions. So in case you are come up with any question, or in case you have any queries at a later stage, please write to us. The email is in the chat box. If you are going to upload any pictures of the session, or if you plan to make a post on social media, you can tag us at using this. I'm just putting the details in the chat box. You can also use the hashtag that I'm also going to put in the chat box. Yes. So I think we don't have any more questions. We can, if there are no more questions, we can probably have a last set of final comments from the panelists. Hita, if you could invite the panelists to just give their final thoughts, and we can conclude.
Thank you, Aishwarya, and thank you everyone for being here with us today. Last few minutes before we can end, and I think I'll bring back the 4 wonderful panelists that we've had. Joyce, Ash, Anshul, and Ridhima, thank you for being here. But if there's any last comments that you'd like to share with the audience, the floor is yours.
I think I just want to say a very well done. Congratulations to TCI for a very well organized event. Congratulations and to the launch of the program. I hope you get really good, dedicated applicants. And yes, summing up with all of the energy in the past hour or so, please move forward. Please don't wait. Like you said, the time to act is now, and don't feel that you need somebody else to bring you along. Every little bit counts, and everyone can contribute. So congratulations, and happy to have been part of this discussion. Back to you.
Yes, Ash.
Thank you. Well, I just want to, sort of echo the sentiments and say heartiest congratulations. I think this is a very important moment. As you come together, there's tremendous hope. And as they say, tomorrow is the first day of the rest of your life. So just go with the flow and get this done. And I know you're in the best company. So I just want to say this is a moment we've been waiting for, and I celebrate with you today till the end of time, and I celebrate each one of you. So thank you very much for this great opportunity, and let me know if there's anything I could possibly do, or anybody else in the Bob family of which all of you are a part. So thank you, and very best wishes. Get out there and shine on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ash. Anshul, over to you.
Sure. No, I'm actually really looking forward to the program and to interacting with folks who end up joining the program as well, and very, very excited to see it build. Just echoing what everybody said, and what Ash also mentioned, Youth Ki Awaaz is your platform as much as it is anybody else's. So please do make sure that your experiences, your concerns, your stories, it's your home for all of it. So use it like that. And we'll also, of course, be here for you as well. So I think all of us together, we'll definitely create that community for each one of you out there.
Thank you so much, Anshul, and leaving the last word for the best, Ridhima.
I would just like to say a huge congratulations to the entire TCI team, even to the partners Youth Ki Awaaz, UNESCO, and POP. And I would just like to say, it was my pleasure being part of the launch event, and I can really see it helping a lot many young people, because most of the time the as I said earlier, the most important questions is what do I do and how do I start, and what's important and everything. And I think it is going to be a great guidance for the young people who really want to drive change. So yeah, I can really see it helping out so many young people, and yeah, I see it as a huge success already. And yeah, and I really look forward to the amazing wonders that the project is going to do.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we look forward to working with many of you in this journey together.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. See you.
Great things are in store. Yeah. Very proud. Thank you. You're all an inspiration.
Hita, can we take a group picture if there is time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, requesting everyone to turn on their videos. I mean, whoever can. I'll just quickly take a group picture.
Thank you.
Anyone from the audience who can turn on their videos, please do. Great. Okay, taking a snap in at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Great. Just a final vote of thanks. Thank you to the lovely audience for joining us. I hope you have enjoyed and got to learn something from the panel discussion, and also for patiently listening about the program. We hope to see you join the program very soon. Thank you to the speakers and also to the partners representing their organizations who have joined with us today, and also my dear colleagues at TCI. We hope to see you all soon. Goodbye.
You guys are really
Bye.
inspiring. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank